Hi guys and welcome back. So we're continuing essentially right where we left off in the previous video. We now have these funnel towers base colored and we're ready to start tackling the terrain around them, in particularly this first one here. I was thinking we might perhaps also do the collisions for this pit in this video. Should be pretty straightforward actually to do that. Just so that we have like slightly more control over how this area plays when cars can't just go falling into the pit anymore. Let's actually start with that. So let's fire up our trusty Blender file that we've been working with for some time now, and hide the funnel tower parts and show the receiver pit instead. We don't have any actual materials for this yet, so we can't really use this mode. We'll just show as white, and this roof is called cube in this file, so maybe we can name it roof like that, and then we can hide it. So let's start with the collisions for the actual pit itself. Maybe I can do the roof later on. And the roof is actually this is so simple that I don't actually need to most likely define any kind of collision mesh in Blender for this, because you can essentially just this is one cube at a slight angle, and then these can also be cubes, essentially these pillars, supports. The material or the collision mesh for objects is typically much lower resolution than the actual object itself. So if we enable, this is perhaps a bit tricky to see here, but you see these yellow lines here actually define the collision for this. If you just comment out this actual mesh, you can see that this is what the collision for this pillar looks, or this column looks like. If we had the dam, we can see something similar here. You have this huge quad here, for example, and I think the garage building has something slightly similar. This is a little more detailed, just because this is a building that you get to sort of drive right up to, so I wanted this to be kind of slightly more detailed, but still you want to keep the collisions pretty simple. For example, here on the back side you can see that I've just taken some shortcuts there, because you won't be able to drive on the back side, so it doesn't matter that much. So we'll want to do something similar for the pit here. So let's do that, and we can always go in and improve this stuff later on if we need to. So let's add a new object, and let's start with a plane, I think, just like we did with the actual mesh, and we can move it here, and we can call it pit collisions like this, and then we will we immediately need to make a decision here. Do we actually want to include this bottom in the collisions? And I'm thinking probably no. I don't think we need to do that. If someone throws like a piece of cargo or a grenade or something in here, then they will see it rolling around sort of in the air here. But yeah, let's start with a simpler version, and then we can improve it later if we need to. So let's start covering this area here. Let's move it a bit off to the side, and we scale it a little bit, and something like this perhaps. You want it to roughly cover what you actually what you want it to represent, but if you can cut down on the detail level of the object and have it sort of slightly deviate from the visual side, then that's fine. So this one actually went a bit too far, something like that. Maybe that one as well. Okay, and then let's put a loop there. Although these are not really loops when we're talking about a plane, they're more like edges at this point. Okay, and then we can probably take all of these and just extrude them up a little bit, and we'll take actually let's get rid of that one. Oh, just the face, and we can extrude it up as a separate face, and then move it forward, which is X here, and down. And here we have the same thing. Like, okay, do we actually waste a bit of memory and performance by covering this exactly how it looks? I mean, it's for this particular object, has absolutely no difference if we do that or not. But if you keep these things in mind with all the collision objects that you're putting into the game, then sooner or later it's actually gonna start to have a bit of an effect on the thing. So let's keep it in mind. Okay, and here we can most likely I'm having trouble selecting my face here. We can connect these so that we now have this general shape done. Maybe I'll actually want to pull this back a little bit so that it aligns with the front of this railing here, and let's hide that for a bit. And we'll move this up and then get our model back, something like this. And we don't want to actually have that be a part of the mesh, so I think we'll bring these two edges slightly upwards, something like that. And and we might actually get away with just having like a slanted surface here, because you generally just you don't want things to sort of get stuck here. Even if someone throws like a grenade and something, it just probably just like bounces off it and goes back. So we can get away with that there. Right, so let's extrude this, something like that maybe. Let's hide our pit again. We have essentially the same stuff that we had with the rim when we were actually doing this stuff to begin with, and that we want to sort of make the outer side a bit thicker. Yeah, let me actually think about how I want to do this. I want to do it like all the way around. Actually, you know what we could do here? We could actually use retop of flow for this. That might actually be quite a nice thing to do the outside with. So let's do that. But before we do that, let's finish this inside, because this we a pretty good thing going here. So I get to show you probably my favorite Blender extension. Retopoflow is awesome, and you should definitely get it if you think it looks nice, because it is very nice. What happened with this? Did I actually delete that face? That was silly of me if I did that. It's not my intention. Like this. Okay, so we're covering all of this now. That's fine. Then we have the stairs. With the stairs, again, we don't want to include every single step in this collision mesh. That would be a terrible waste of resources. So let's have a think how we actually want to do this. We can probably extrude this first, like something like this, and then get rid of these top faces, and then we probably take this edge here and also this edge here, and we subdivide it, and we move down this face here, and actually probably a little higher or something like that, and then we hide the pit, not the whole collection but just a bit. There we go, and we take this face and we put a face there, and then we temporarily remove that one. And what do we have here now? This looks weird. That probably looks weird because what? That should have been actually like a, for some reason that has been pushed back a little bit. That's weird. I don't like that at all. Let's get rid of those. Let's do. How do we fix this the easiest way? Like you can see actually that this is poking backwards a little bit. Yes. How do we move it so that it's for once I want to make something. I want to do something that's like exactly how I intend it to be. Okay, extrude and snap, and let's merge by distance, and now we can, whoop, wrong button, oh come on, like so, get rid of face, get rid of only face, probably only face. That one we can get rid of completely. Actually, yeah, that's. I don't need to do it. I don't need to do it this way. I can simply. I'm just failing hard at this now. So there's the vertex, and we will dissolve the vertex, right? Got rid of that one as well, that's annoying. So dissolve edge. Now it stays there, right? Yes. And now we can dissolve of this vertex. Come on, dissolve the vertex. There we go. Okay. And now we can add it back, and now it will be sitting on the yeah. I'm just failing hard now. I'm just gonna do it like this. Okay, there we go. And then we dissolve that vertex, and then we subdivide it, add it back, and we make sure not to actually move it off the edge there. Right. So that one as well, and then oh no. There we go. And now if we look in the profile, we see that they're all sitting on top of each other, which is what we want. Okay. Okay, that's better. So now we take that and put it back, and now we don't need this face anymore. Oh, come on. It was only there to help us deal with that situation. And we want to face there, and we don't want to face there. Like so. Okay, that looks better. So now we can continue with this up the stairs, and I think I'm actually gonna move this along Y, along Y a little bit, and I can perhaps move this along Y the other way to make it match that better, and then we will move this one along Y until it matches this wall, and that one along Y as well, something like that. And that looks good, that looks good. Okay, cool. And right, let's extrude along X and move not Z. Oh, sorry. Move it not along Z. What? Oh, do I have some weird mode on now? I want that one. Move not along Z. But it... Okay, yeah, it actually just looks exactly right. It just disappears into the wall, and that makes me confused. Something like that, and maybe we can actually bring this a bit forward so that we can then start that wall off that. Sounds like a pretty good deal. And then we extrude along Y, no, X. Not Y, so X a little more. Again, same deal, we want to continue the other wall exactly off that. And now we're reaching the point of this bit where walls aren't slanted anymore, so move not Z and put it there. So it should actually be matching. It's not though, so I probably hit some other vertex. Let's see. Now it is matching. Okay, so there we have our staircase. Yeah, it's funny how, like, when this is slanted, this looks slanted as well, but that is actually perfectly straight. So the perspective is playing tricks on you. Right, we don't actually want that to be directly beneath the other one though. We want it to be close to this one. Right, and now we can extrude along Y up to here. Isn't that right? And then that one can go first underneath this one, and then we can move it up like so, and then some more, something like that. And then we can take this whole face if we want to, and just slightly move it off the wall so that we can see it better when we have the pit visible. And speaking of, let's actually turn it off for a bit, and we will extrude along Y to there. I think that should be... Actually, we want it a bit more, don't we? Let's move this along X just a bit. Yeah, let's start it. That's actually fine. We can start them at the same Y coordinate. Good, so then we turn that off again. And this is slanted, yeah, so they're not going to be exactly the same. It doesn't matter. No, not that. Only this edge. We extrude it along Y to that point. point, and then we move this guy up to that point. And then we can make a face there, and a face there, and a face there. And that is our beautiful inner collision mesh finished. And as you can see, it roughly matches, and it matches just enough to be what we want. And now then, now we can go into full screen mode here, and we can enable retop of flow. How do I do this now that I have like a half-made thing? I think I want this to be at active, so that is the one I want to actually start with. And yeah, I don't need that. Thank you very much. And let's do a quick thing here. So like this is a tool that you can just make. What? That didn't work. Let's see. Oh, there was a knife. Sorry. You can make geometry like this, and it will sort of follow where you're clicking, and that is going to be super handy for doing this stuff. However, now I have sort of the, like if we use it like this, we click there, and then we pull it all the way over here. So that it has now created like a new mesh for us like this, right? So what if I now want all of this other stuff that we created, this stuff, and this stuff to be the same, right? So now I have combined them, and we don't actually need any of this now, since we're not doing any materials for the collision things. Now we should actually be able to snap to, yeah, now it sort of sees the geometry that we already made as being sort of part of this retop of flow mesh. Excellent. Okay. So now we can drag this here, and it will sort of stay on top of the mesh. We don't have to do anything special to actually match it up. So we can do this, and then like so, and it will snap to these coordinates. This is really, really good. It can be a bit hard to see sometimes, like, okay, how is what is actually going on here when you have like multiple layers of these meshes. But you can do this, and now we have sort of that one covered. And this is particularly handy if you want to, as the name suggests, retopologize something that you have, for example, sculpted. Nope. Just move it, and it will stay on the actual mesh. So here's a problem, that we don't have a vertex there to actually snap this to. So let's go out of this and just add one there. And while we're at it, let's add one on the other side as well. I'm just gonna hide the pit for a bit, move it down, and we can actually just merge those together, and then we'll go here and we'll do the same thing. So slide down, slide down to that level, and that should make it easier to continue. Like so. And yeah, like doing stuff like this for a complicated mesh by hand is not fun, because you need to constantly check that the geometry that you're adding is sort of sitting on top of the already existing geometry, and this one does that for you automatically. I'm being perhaps a little too precise with my collisions here, but I'm thinking like at the entrance of this, it might make sense to actually be a little more precise. And I think just like we talked earlier, might be able to get away with just having sort of stretch that out like this, stretch that out like this, and then do on the polypen tool and do something like this. It's a bit hard to see here in this mode, but this is essentially what we're getting now. And so that should be quite good for as a collision mesh. We need to somehow combine these together. Snap to that one, snap there, and snap there. Actually, let's make this be the quad. Oh, there was a there's actually a vertex there. Maybe we want to actually move this here then, so that we can sort of connect to that. That might just be good practice. Like that and like that. Like so. Yeah, I guess this is also a kind of free topology, just the fact that you're taking like a mesh that you already have some topology for, and then you're making something else, typically a lower quality version of that. Right. Okay. We want that, and we want it there, and then we want it there, and then we want to finally connect it there. And that doesn't want to connect to that for some reason. Why is that? Yeah, if there's one criticism of this, it's that this rendering is somehow a little difficult to work with. Often it works really, really well, but sometimes it's like it just doesn't find that vertex for some reason. You can hear me frantically clicking there, like it finds that one. And it doesn't find that one. I don't know why. Ah, man. Probably because it's somehow inside the thing when it's selected manually like this. The nice thing is that, or one nice thing about this is that it's just working on regular Blender data, so you can just go out of the tool and just work with it regularly. That's just the point, though. Let's get rid of that, and you can just add the face here like this. Here we have something. What is that? What is that? Yeah, here we have some kind of extra face here that. Let's delete the edge and see, this should all be connected, and it seems to be. I don't really like those. Let's just delete them. We don't really need them. Yeah. Yeah, this looks all right. So let's keep going. This does actually take a bit of time. I was thinking we could quickly do this and then move on to the terrain, but seems like I was wrong. This actually does take a bit of time, but it's important stuff to do, so it doesn't bother me. For some reason this face here is flipped, so let's flip it like so. And then yeah, from this outer side we can just go down a little bit, and that'll be fine. That's all we need. And then we can finish the mesh there. So we do something like this. We go it's 5. And yeah, Retopper Flow has all sorts of other. I'm just using this polypen tool because it is perhaps the easiest and most flexible one to use in cases like this. But if you have a lot of like similar geometry that you're working with, something like a fingers on a hand or something like this, then it has these like loops and patches and strokes and contours and all kinds of things that you can like automatically have it follow certain types of geometry, and that is certainly very handy. Right. There we go. That's one, and that's the last one. Right. So now we have sort of this end of the collision done. Let's try to do this all in like one go. So it would be there, and oh no, that's not what I want at all. We want to move from this edge and there. One of the sources has inward facing normals. Yeah. I think that yeah, that's exactly it. We hit the face that was actually on the inside, and that's the problem with these meshes that aren't manifold. So essentially meshes that aren't like closed, like from an outside point of view, this face doesn't exist. It only exists from the inside, etc. Ideally, we would want to use only meshes that are manifold, that are sort of closed. Watertight is another term that's been used for those kinds of meshes. And we could make this manifold, but it doesn't really make any sense to do that, since it will be sitting in the ground. There's no real point in like wasting resources on it, since no one will ever be able to see the outside of the pit, outside of the part of the pit that is underground. It doesn't make any sense to add any geometry for it there. So there we go. I'm nearing the end of this side now. So like that, and then maybe we can, yeah, it sort of realizes that I have these quads here and tries to be helpful about it. And that's appreciated. Right, so again how did I actually polypen. Like, I would like to get rid of that, but I don't remember how to do it. Let's just delete it from here, because again we have this edge here that I added some geometry on the other side, so we might as well do it on this side as well. Like so, and now it usually, like it when you hover it like this, it sort of realizes that, oh, you're trying to actually fill these in, and that's the part of this that makes it in most cases just extremely fast to work with. Like that. Extremely fast and extremely easy. Just make sure that you're starting from the right face. Like, whoa! Now, for example, that didn't go right. Yeah, it somehow doesn't realize that we want to stop like at this part. So there we go, and now just deselect the other face to continue from this, and you're good to go. And all of the cliffs in the game currently, for example, have been retopologized using this system. And you may or may not think that they look good, but that's mostly just my skills that haven't been the best they can, rather than this plugin being bad. No, there we go. So yeah, for doing things like this, like just mapping to like an outside thing, this plugin is super awesome. Let's bring that up a little bit. It looks a little uneven. Of course, this mesh won't be visible, so this is essentially just a triangle mesh. Physics meshes have some different have a few different sort of requirements than rendered meshes. Essentially, it's just like a list of triangles without any sort of indices or anything like that. So generally, the requirements are more laxed for physics meshes. And so I wouldn't consider this a good render mesh, but that doesn't matter since we're not gonna render it. Like so. Okay, so we have just this front left, and then we can move on to other things. Again, we have some issues here with selecting these things. Let's start from the one that we can actually select. So put one there and there. And yeah, this is what the rendering typically looks like now. It's typically more clear. I think I may have some scale setting or something which makes this sort of shine through everything like this. I don't know, not exactly sure why that happens. It doesn't look good, and it's not particularly easy to use when everything is sort of visible through everything else. And also just the fact that you can like take a point like this and you can just drag it somewhere, and you can see that it actually stays on the surface of the mesh, regardless of where you like move it. And that's it. Like for that alone, I feel like this extension is super awesome. So yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like when you're working with this. So click and snap. Come on, snap, and yeah, it doesn't like that vertex. It really doesn't like this vertex for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why. If you remember, that's the one that we couldn't select earlier. It's quite surprising. So okay, since we've gone perhaps a little overboard with some of these details, maybe we'll actually just delete this guy here and actually model these so that they are matching the visual side here on this slope. I mean, this is hardly high poly anyway, and the idea of course here is that it is sort of, it's not supposed to be high poly. These are sort of like planes that are sort of, they're cast out of concrete in this way, and you're essentially supposed to see exactly what it looks like. Okay, I think we're done here. We'll fix these vertices that the system doesn't want to play with. I'll just fill them in like this. Well, oh, we can put the face there, but then just join those two together. Okay. So here is our beautiful collision mesh. And we'll move it here, and we rename it again, collisions. Pit collisions, that is. And we'll export it as regular FBX, and of course, if you want to, you can render this. It's no problem. But you most likely don't want to do that. Collisions. We'll just shut that down. Instead, what you will want to do is make sure that the mesh gets physics data generated for it, and that is done through a meta file. And certain tools, such as the texture editor, for example, if you open a texture here, like we did with the dam diffuse one, for example, here, you can set some metadata here, and that gets stored in a meta file, much like Unity handles things, or at least used to back when I last looked at it. And the same thing is done with the meshes, although meshes don't get meta files added to them automatically yet. I'll at some point I'll put in like a similar editor here for meshes in this, but it doesn't exist yet, so you just have to add it there by hand. It's a JSON file as well, and and if we look at the garage, for example, which clearly has collisions here, so it has a building garage collision mesh and a building garage collision mesh FBX meta. Let's copy that and bring it over here to our mini transporter. And then we need to rename it receiver pit collisions so that it matches this. Oh, come on. There we go. So it matches this file. And if we look at what is inside this, it has just a position. We don't really need that to be the case, but we can essentially remove all the normals and everything because the physics engine doesn't use them. And then we generate the physics tri-mesh. This is the important one. Optimized geometry is true here, but I think it's true by default, so it's technically not needed. And then we can go in and convert this just like we do with any other mesh. And we can look at this, and it should at some point say that it has written, let's see, that's an async error, but it shouldn't matter really. Let's clear this. Receive bit collisions. Whoop. I don't actually see it here. Yeah, this error is from an earlier mesh that I broke. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, that it doesn't actually write anything. Let's go to the garage building and convert this one. Right, so it does say road physics data 13.35 kilobytes, and that is what I was actually looking for. So why did we actually misspell that file? Yes, we did. Okay, so it's, yeah, this is Windows trying to be helpful, but actually failing at it. So it's supposed to be receive repeat collisions.fbx, which is the same name, and then just meta afterwards. And when you rename something, it selects everything in front of the last period. So it tried to help me, but it actually made life more difficult for me. So yeah, okay, 4.44 kilobytes, and this was 13 kilobytes. That makes sense. This is more complicated than what we just made. And then we go to the research station blueprint again, and we look at this building garage. You can see here that you can define like basic shapes and whatnot here, but here we just have like one tri-mesh shape, and it uses that mesh. This uses default ground, and that means that cars can, for example, drive on this. You can drive into this garage here and then out again. And that is something that we definitely don't want with this pit, and that's something that's gonna make cars stop when they try to actually drive on it. So actually, I think this is supposed to be shapes, like so, and it's a list of shapes, and this is the one and only shape that we have, and this is supposed to be a static body transform component. And yeah, now we just need to put in the correct mesh. So we copy this one and replace it with this one. And I somehow, yeah, okay, what did I do? I somehow didn't manage to copy that correctly. And there we go, now it matches up. It matches our visual mesh quite well, except for these places where we deliberately don't want it to match up. We want it to be slanted so that anything that gets thrown out of it is just sort of, it just rolls off that. And we can try this now, even though we have the wrong material there, physics material there, that is, or perhaps specifically because of that. Yeah, let's put the master volume down. I don't think I have a script here that would allow me to easily select one of these guys, but we can just fly here and move it. So now I should be able to, for example, run over this part here. Like it has collisions clearly. It's no longer going through it. You can run over it. And maybe that's actually not so bad. You can kind of get stuck on this stuff, and obviously the roof and the roof support pillars still don't have any collisions. Like the vehicle model that I'm using is sort of, it's a bit simplified, so you can get probably stuck like this quite easily if you try, and even if you don't try in some cases. So this is why I sort of wanted the material to be something that you definitely can't drive on. So now if we go here and we take the ground also, we use just the default physics material, which is not traversable. It should stop. It should not be possible to do that anymore. And let's go there again. Let's see what we have. A problem though is that this is now probably gonna be, yeah, like you can get stuck on this now because it's the vehicle physics work with ray casts, and so like now you cannot drive onto this anymore, and I think this is probably what we want. This is better, like that. It's just sort of rubbing up against it. Doesn't look necessarily all that realistic, but it's still it's like it is what we want in this case. If someone tries to do something crazy, then that's what they get. So this is now sort of the issue, if we want to call it an issue, that vehicles can kind of get stuck on that. Like you can see the wheels spinning in weird directions and whatnot. One thing that like this, yeah. Now the wheel is sort of from physics perspective, the wheels are kind of in the air because it doesn't know what to do with materials that aren't traversable. Luckily, the other wheels are still on the ground. So we can handle this in many different ways. We can have another mesh here that has like a different material, or we can just not have a mesh at all, which is perhaps not the best thing, since yeah, actually what I will do here is I'll cut it off at this point, and then we'll put another shape here, because you can have multiple shapes here. I'll just put another traversable shape there. That should be easy and quick. So one last time into Blender, and let's duplicate this and call this like uncut or something like that. And then we'll go in here and we'll simply take a knife and we'll just cut it. Boom. Cut it off and cut it out. So join those as well. And oh, looks like I somehow blew that, like so. Just a straight cut, or more or less straight cut along this line here. So we'll select the faces I want to get rid of. Boom, 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 and boom, and we'll get rid of those. And then we can just fill in these, even though it doesn't quite matter. Oh, there was one face. There was one face left. Like that. And let's just make sure that we have the face orientations correct. Yes. And then now that we have the cut version of this, we'll export that, and we'll export it again to here, and it should automatically update in our maybe it doesn't. Now it does. So now it's updated here. We can see it's being cut off, and we can have a look at like how do we put in just a regular shape here. So here's a cylinder, for example, and we'll take the receiver bit and this here, and the type will be like a box, and it is called size, and it will be around 3 meters per 1 and 1 or something like that. Not 30, but 1 and 1. And we'll move it. Right, we have an error here, and that's where we. No, still have an error. Where's the error? This type is box contains invalid JSON. Where's our invalid JSON? Oh, it is. It's right here. That's a list, so it needs to look like this. And there's our box. We don't want to rotate it, and actually we want it to be longer along the C. Maybe that's minus. Oh, that's fine. Position is actually what I wanted. 20. I can't work. I can do things now. I'm utterly confused about everything. Okay, so red is X. So let's put it there, and then move it up. Not that far. A little lower still. So now we're nearing the place where we actually want it to be. So let's try 9, and now we're actually very close, 8.8. So you can see that even though I don't have a dedicated editor for this, when you have this live update here, it's actually quite fast and easy to edit this stuff. That's why I haven't really bothered, and I don't think I actually necessarily will bother with like a dedicated blueprint editor. Oh, well, you're getting all of the highlights now of my buggy tools. I have a deadlock that sometimes happens when reloading lots of assets quickly. So there's like two threads that try to access the same thing, and then it just locks up. Okay, and then we want to rotate it around the Z a little bit. So not that way, the other way. And maybe like, I don't know, 12 degrees. 14 looks good. But yeah, you're getting the show of everything that's wrong with my engine now in this video. Lucky you. Okay, here we go. This looks better. No, actually, that's probably good, but let's make it a little narrower. Not that it really matters, but still. And then maybe move it up, something like that. And the trick now is that we'll mark this as drivable by using this default ground, and the rest of the mesh will have this default, which is not drivable or traversable. I think I want that just a little bit down. So this should make it so that if you're like coming at a high speed and driving over this, everything is fine, which is what we want. So let's try that out. If you're running into the actual railing, then you get stopped. While we're at it, why not actually drive this vehicle to the pit, because this has a grenade launcher that we can play around with. Oh, so that should allow us to like throw things into the pit. I should really add more dynamic objects to this level. we have some exploding barrels up there by the there's a dropship wreck there. But I should really add more. It's just a matter of placing them in the editor. Yay. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Let's just... Well, these small ones have like lots of HP, so they're kind of tricky to blow up. Go away. Okay. So now we should be able to drive on this, just like we wanted, no problem. There's no glitching out of wheels or anything like that. Can we see them? We can see them and it looks good. But if we try to actually drive into this, then we get stopped immediately. And we can still throw things into the pit. And they will behave as we expect. There's like a slight sort of edge there where, like, yeah, exactly. Like if you aim like if you aim here, then it looks like it should be going down, but it's actually not. You need to aim like a little further down, like that. And again down here, like looks like they're almost like standing in the air. Yeah, we can fix that if we want to, but I don't know. I might actually. I was thinking about this earlier, and I might actually just put like a boom barrier or something here. That seems like something that these people would have done when they sort of abandoned this thing. This looks like a pretty hazardous thing to have right next to a road otherwise. And then that's also gonna solve some of these physics issues and weird cases. Let's blow that up with a railgun. Boom. Okay, so that's the physics or collisions sorted for that one. And we should do something for this one as well. So how do we do that then? Like easy primitive shapes can be just created in the editor. That's actually what these hands here are. These are just blockers. So we can do that for the legs. But for this funnel, it might actually be easier just to whip up a very quick collision mesh in Blender, and it should literally be like a 1 minute thing. So let's do that. Let's hide everything except the funnel, like this, and we add a cylinder, and we rotate it around X 90 degrees. We make the radius something like that, and the depth something like that, and then we what did I do? I don't know. And then we cut it a little bit. Oh, I know what I did. I was bad. I was bad at my job. So we'll cut it about there. Actually, maybe this is too highly tessellated. I feel like it is. I feel like we don't need that high polygon sphere or cylinder for this. So let's Let's do a 16 one instead. Again, just trying to be sort of conservative with how much you're throwing at these things, because if you do that all the time, then you're going to be better off. And then delete the faces, and then bridge these two. Bridge edge loops. And we can still do something about those if we want to, and these. So why not? Why not do that? But I'm not even gonna bother making them like cylinders now. Instead, just make them boxes like this, like so, and duplicate and set this to. Oh, okay, we actually already have it set to that, so we can just put it there. Boom. And then make another cube, scale it down. Let's look at it from above so we know how wide this needs to be, something like that. Move it up, move it along Y a little bit, like so. Look at it from the side. Now we actually need it to be the median point, so we scale it along the Z. Maybe move it down a little bit. That. Yeah. Okay. Let's be fancy. Let's be fancy. Let's add one more here and put it there, and then we can take this guy and move them down. And then take this guy, move it up, and then this guy. Move it up. Something like this, right? Yeah, that should be fine. So then we put that back to 3D cursor, and when we duplicate and we rotate around X like 180. There we go. That's our collision mesh for this funnel. So funnel collisions, and we export that to tower funnel collisions. Export FBX, and we save and we exit Blender. And again, we do the meta file dance. Yeah, so now let's copy the whole thing and like that. And we convert that, and it should write a few kilobytes of stuff for us. And we can go here and have a look at this. So let's just actually copy this whole thing, and we place it here, and we can just remove this one. Like so. I feel like we should actually already see the. We should already see the shapes. We don't do that, even though they are wrong, but still. Oh, we have invalid JSON again. Where is the invalid JSON? It's right here. There we go. Okay. Okay, so there we go. So now we have collisions for that. Even though it might not actually need it, but now we have it. So that's good. And now we can go here, and we can go to this layer, the mini transporter tower 1. And we can add a few blockers here just to make these legs block and have collisions. I think these are probably the more important ones, because these are things that the player can actually run into. So we have only boxes and spheres if we want to do it like this. That's probably fine. Let's again do something that roughly matches the shape of this, and that'll be it. Right. So then we take another one, and we rotate it 45 degrees, actually, exactly, because that's a 45-degree module that we have here. Let's do a little more, something like that. And yeah, that's one of the legs done, and then we just take this one and move it over, and we have both of them. So that's good. Right, I'm not gonna drive over there now with this one. I'll use this car or something like that. These are just some like script shortcuts that I've added for myself. I could just place one of those rocket launcher cars right next to this one, and then we could try it out. But like, yeah, boom, yeah, this looks awesome. And now, of course, those ones up there, they only have collisions for their funnels, not for the legs, and arguably the funnel collisions are sort of wasted on them, because they don't really need to have any collisions at all. But we can create another blueprint if we want to, without the funnel, without the collisions if we want to, and like that way we can get rid of it. But I don't know. So let's just quickly play around with this. I'm not even going to save the level. Just fly over there and select that car. So this one, now if we select this, like, we should be able to sort of bounce like a grenade off that funnel, or even off these what did we call them? Stabilizers. Like, boom. It works as we expect. So good, yeah. Good. Now we're talking. There's a flying scale mannequin here. Let's move him a little off to the side. Okay, so I think it's finally time now to start tackling this ground here, which was sort of supposed to be the main focus of this video anyway. So let's do that. I'm going to get rid of that one, and we'll have a little bit of a think about what we should add and where. So I think what we'll do first is, like we discussed in a previous video, this road here is not really supposed to be this obvious. Like, you're still supposed to be able to drive here, but it's more supposed to be just that the terrain allows you to do that, rather than there actually being a proper road. Instead, we'll take this road, this other road here, and like make this a little more wide, and well, this should have been wider anyway, but I'll make it so that this is clearly like the junction is over here, and here just happens to be a place where you can drive. I mean, it's good to have these places, these alternative routes around the place, just like we have here, where you can like drive this way. You can even drive in between these places, because oh, now that I'm looking at this, maybe we should do the same thing here with the collisions. But anyway, I'll deal with it. Yeah, because then that gives you like, that gives you as a player, and it gives the AI an opportunity to choose the optimal path of like dealing, especially in combat scenarios. Plus it's fun to have many routes, so it makes sense to keep that in mind when designing these areas. And I think I want the road to be like slightly, make like a slightly longer turn here. We'll give a bit more space to this area. Something like that, maybe even a bit more. Again, this is a sort of thing that like it's difficult to say exactly how something is supposed to flow, but you can sort of when you're looking at it, you can see that looks unnatural and weird, and that's typically a sign that you need to move something a little bit. So here's an area where we should clearly like flatten this a little bit, and for things like this the carvers are really great. So let's put a carver here and make it like 3 meters wide, very thin, and then probably like 50 meters long or something. Maybe even a bit wider. Let's make it 25. Now you can match it, set it up to be roughly how you want, and then just carve and a bit more carve. And then if you want to, in the same way, if you want to like fill up this area, you just extrude it here, and it will fill it up for you. These kinds of things are almost impossible to do with just the normal terrain tools. And of course you can use like spheres and cylinders and other shapes as well for this. Works just as well. For example, here I think this road here, I used like 2 cylinders right next to each other to make these kind of trails, tracks where the tires have pushed the terrain down over time. So it's kind of handy. Yeah, I'm not gonna do this whole road using this, but just a little bit, like leveling this area a little bit. Carve and extrude. Do like both at the same time, and then, or one after the other, and then that levels it effectively. Just carve in this situation. Yeah, this looks better, and then we go in and start to actually flatten out this place. And with roads, it's typically like make them very flat first. You can always add bumps and irregularities later. But if you start out with like a very bumpy surface, then it's not gonna feel good, and it's not gonna play well. So make it almost like unnaturally flat to begin with. Oh, I wanted to actually remove some of this gravel here. It's perhaps a little narrow here, but that's fine. Yeah. And then of course you should just play it, play, and see how it feels to drive along these areas. Like this is quite bumpy still, and it's kind of surprising how even small bumps can feel really bad in a driving game. Let's make this wider, like 10 or something. Extrude and carve, and then get it out of the way again. You can see that this was really sort of almost like a ditch here that this road is crossing. Unless of course you're making an area or a game where you're really like out in the off-road, and then of course this rule about making roads flat, in that case they don't really apply, but in many cases they do. And now that we have this, I want to cut this off at some point. Let's maybe cut it off here, so we'll sort of do this, make this area feel nice and look nice up to this area, and then we'll continue it, or I will perhaps continue it off camera at a later point. But I still need to probably think about exactly what I want to do with this area up here, and then on towards this place, which is almost completely undesigned as of yet. It gets a bit narrower here, but I think that's just fine. That's kind of to be expected out of a place like this, right? And if we take, well, these are the mission cars, so let's not use those. Let's just add a temporary one here. This is like one of the bigger vehicles in the game. So yeah, this is more than enough space to drive here. Using one of these guys, it's not going to be a problem at all, even if they are hauling a load or something. Okay, and now that we have like the general shape of the road, let's do another thing that I've touched on earlier. We'll want to have one update per vertex with a small strength, and then start to actually push down. What am I doing? I'm doing something wrong. Okay. Yeah, we want to push this down, while still keeping the shape of the road intact, so to speak. So that usually helps with giving an illusion that this is actually a road. Like if you follow this road here, you can see that it's sort of like the lowest point, always, at least like the local lowest point, like this. And it just gives this illusion that okay, the the road has been pushed down. This is actually a place where it's kind of not, but I could even do it here if I wanted to. But it gives this, helps give this illusion that the surface has been sort of pushed down by heavy vehicles traveling along it. You want to keep the mouse button pushed until you've covered the entire area that you're doing, so that you keep the shape the same. You can sort of see it happening already, but I have the wrong mode again. How do I keep doing that? So let's up the strength a little bit. Let's make it like maybe 112 is probably fine. Yeah, now we can actually see it happening like this, and we can even do it with the camera if we're super careful about what we're doing. Something like that, and it's only gonna affect the areas where we haven't been, which means that if we do this whole road, then it will be pushed down. And now we can see it happening, yeah. And maybe do one more with a slightly smaller radius and a slightly smaller strength, and just go like all the way from beginning to end, like this. Yeah. So now it's slowly starting to look like an actual road. Whoop. Something like that, and then then of course you take the sides and you smooth them out. You essentially have to do that trick, that one update per vertex without any fall off, because otherwise when you move it around, the tool will modify the vertex with the minimum fall off just along the edge, and so it will essentially not really do anything. So that's why I turn the fall off when I do that. I should perhaps change the logic of that tool so that it is allowed to apply the full effect per vertex, but still do it only once per vertex. And you can of course do sort of the same thing here with just a regular mode, but you have to be careful if you want to keep the shape of the road. Okay. So now then, what do we want to actually these cliffs to look like? Like, my original plan was that there would be a pretty high cliff here, something like maybe this level or something. But we can't really fit that here if we want that funnel tower to still be aligned. So what do we do instead? It doesn't really seem plausible that these people would have left like a rock here, like it's covering up the whole thing. So let's assume they didn't. Still need to do something about this place. Maybe we can put some rocks here, but just have them sort of pretty deeply buried, kind of like with what we have here. And then maybe that tower can stand on them or not, we will see. But that looks good. And then we have these pylons here. So the idea was to do something similar to what we have here. Like we have these special objects called line renderers, which isn't this. This is just an editor representation. But if we look at it in the game, it uses like a special shader which makes the lines look pretty nice from both from afar and from up close, because lines are these sort of power lines or whatever you want to call them. They're pretty tricky to actually render using normal, like we've seen with thin objects. They tend to flicker and blink. And so we have these things that, like, these are line renderers. Also these supports for the radio mast in the distance here, these are also line renderers. So the idea was to have something like this power line here run maybe from this station here. So we would have one more pylon here, and then two these, and then up there, which also helps to sort of draw the player's attention up towards that. So, you know, they used to power these transporter towers, these funnel towers, using this power. So we can still do that, or we can, if you want to be fancy about it, we can construct some kind of small, like, power appendix that is attached to the towers themselves. I'm not exactly sure, but maybe we'll start with these pylons that we have, and then we can change it later if we need to. Try to be a little smart with the objects that we have, not create everything from scratch. But that would mean that we would, like I said, we would need to have one more of these. We can just call it number 0, and it would start like from somewhere here and cross the road. That's always nice when you have. It feels good to drive under cables like this. I don't know why. It sort of feels like you're right in the middle of some kind of system or complex. And so we can set that up. But before we do it, let's make sure that we know the place that this is gonna be in. Here is just like a pylon just like plonked down on this rock mesh here. The top of this mesh is not going to be super visible, I think, for the player, but it still might be a bit visible, like something like this maybe. So maybe we want to put some rocks or something close to it so that it doesn't look so smack in the middle of nothing. And same thing with these. But those should be relatively easy to make. Like these paths that these take, they are similar to the line, the path that we used to set up the road. So, like this guy, for example. So it can essentially have any shape. You just set up a few points and it smoothly follows them. So that should be fine. We can then move them later if we want to, etc. But before we do any of that, let's make sure we know where this guy is going to stand. And before we know that, we need to know what we want to do about this area here. So let's see. We have the mini transporter. Oh, is that actually Right, well this arguably shouldn't be on that layer. What layer is that? That's the approach cliffs. Yeah, this area is sort of called the approach, at least in the level data. So let's actually move these guys there. Yeah. And that's the dropship is for some reason there. Let's just get rid of it for now. We can get rid of the object exporter also. We can always add one back if we need to. And let's get rid of that as well. It's usually kind of in the way. Okay. So let's see if we can fit some larger rock or cliff here and have it be kind of deeply buried in the ground. Still look good. Do I want it to be grassy or not? I'm not sure. You want something that the road sort of clearly drives around, so to speak. Like something like this maybe. And then it could like continue with these cliffs here. That could be kind of nice. Maybe. Let's try a grassy version. I think we're onto something here. Like it has to be a little off to the side like this to not block, in order not to block this line to the tower. So that's probably fine. Then we can perhaps raise the terrain a little bit here. Thinking about how this flows. And maybe we want another piece of rock sort of here. Like we want to keep this path up here pretty sort of clear and traversable. There's the boom over here, but that's probably not a problem. Like now if you run into this, you actually collide with it, but you can even go past it if you want to. Let's actually get rid of or smooth out this previous road path a little bit, and we can figure out a new way to actually make it work. What is that? That's probably like the benchmark one, right? Yeah, like there's something called the benchmark path, which essentially runs through the whole level and does some weird quirks and things like this. And this is used to, well, benchmark the level, so it flies like a camera along this path and records how well the game runs on the way. So apparently it goes right here, makes a turn and then goes up there. Probably gonna have to change that a little bit when we know how the terrain will look. And if you're wondering why some of these are yellow when they're usually blue, that just means that these are locked, like you can't accidentally select them. You have to hold down Alt to select locked objects. I usually do that with stuff that I'm afraid I will accidentally change and not realize it, and then later realize that, oh no, I've broken something like a month ago and now I don't remember how it should be. Blah blah blah. Let's try to find something that would fit here. Let's move this guy a little off to the side. What could we fit here? Something quite small after all. Something like that maybe. I mean, we don't need to put anything there. I just kind of feel like it would probably look quite alright if we did. And this contrast between this and this is pretty large. Like this is very smooth, while this is not. This is not smooth. We can even try something like actually just duplicating this guy and using like a different part of it. Sometimes the best way to get something to look sort of looks like it belongs together, but we don't want it to be super obvious that it's the same piece, obviously. And if you put something here, then we can also sort of lower this part a little bit if we want to, because these cliffs would essentially be like holding up the terrain, if you will, like this. How does this look? Does this look natural? Well, not yet, but maybe it will look cool in a bit. Now we can start to do things like this, and this may or may not even make the path sort of more obvious, how it sort of flows. Getting the terrain to line up with these rocks is not always super easy. You can see it if you really start to look for it. You can see the line essentially, like, but this is not really finished stuff anyway. But like this is about as well as it can be hidden. Like you can, if you look for it, you can clearly see that there's something here. That looks like a seam. And sometimes you can just do this. You can like embrace the fact, well, this is not really finished either. But you can just like embrace the fact that there's something there. But yeah, it can be a bit difficult to get it to look natural if you're going for that. For the look where it's like this is one and the same surface. It's not always easy, and that's why I seldom try to make it so that it looks like it, but sometimes you want that. Here's a typical case of like next to this road there would be like a ditch where water would be flowing as it sort of comes down from the cliffs and the mountains. And it's usually in these cases it's good to like lower this enough and then just paint it with mud and like rocks that don't have anything growing on them, stuff like that. That can be a pretty good way to make it look natural. you have to do these things in like small steps and like some pretty systematically work your way across and around the whole thing. And do it in sort of passes to see where you're going with it. It sounds like I know what I'm doing with regards to, or it sounds like I think I know what I'm doing with regards to level design. I really don't. This is all just stuff that I find has worked quite well in this project. And so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But do tell me if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. That's super interesting to hear. Right, so now this tower is sort of standing on a kind of small rock outcropping, which I think probably will work quite well when we add some like larger, or some like smaller rocks and larger rocks and some trees and whatnot to the mix. I think it will look quite good and fitting. Like this, and I think we will want to lower this a little bit, because if you're thinking about like especially if you're coming from up here, there's a really kind of unfriendly angle if you want to make it easier for players to actually drive here. We could use a carver here as well if we wanted to. Maybe we'll do, since we have one lying around here. We have one handy. Make that like 10 and maybe this like 30 or something. Not go super crazy with it, but have like one go at determining the angle that we want to work with here, and the angle is probably going to be something like this. Let's make it a bit narrower, but at the same time a bit longer. Yeah, something like this maybe. We'll see. Carve and then get rid of it. Yeah. We have this place here with the trees and the rocks, and I feel like maybe we should just lower it, all of this a little bit. Otherwise it's gonna feel like it's like right where the player is driving. Like that, and then actually let's just move everything together downwards. Yeah. Like so. Yeah, the angle is getting better. sort of know intuitively at this point, like which, and I'm not always right, but I think I know intuitively at this point, like which angles are going to cause trouble with the driving physics that we have, and which ones are going to be easy and fun to drive on. Yeah. Okay, this is better. Oh, not race. What happened? Why is it not showing? Did I accidentally? That's weird. Okay. I probably did something stupid. Okay. Yep. We can get rid of those icons if we don't want to look at them all the time. They can be kind of distracting. And we'll be able to see this area more easily. Okay. Let's try to actually make the terrain here look nice now in the middle of these rocks. So we've gone for like a grassy look here, more or less by accident. And so I think it makes sense to try to roughly match this this terrain color with these rocks. I mentioned earlier that this place is supposed to not be super green, so maybe we'll try to almost limit the greenness in this area to this rock outcropping. We have a bit of brown here on the other side as well. It can still work though, and if it doesn't, we'll replace these with rocks that aren't so green, but we'll see what happens. So first of all, let's try to match the color of the grass to the rocks a little better. The rock shader that has this green on it, it's like this kind of thing that like places the green on top of the rocks. That was actually a good point. Like, what should the rotation of this guy be? There's quite a lot of detail on this side, but it looks a little weird, perhaps. Might be fine. I kind of like this side as well. I don't know. Let's just leave it as it is for now. Maybe rotate it a little bit just to see how it fits with this other one. Something like that, maybe. Yeah, that looks all right. And then keep going with this. Yeah, so the shader mixes a few different textures together, and it's typically like a slightly more, it ends up looking a slightly more brownish than this very, very green base grass texture that I'm using, even though that particular texture is also used in that shader, or material, shall we say. And then you have things like this, and then of course you need to remember that this is actually what it's going to look like in the game. Again, with matching the terrain with the surrounding objects, we're never going to get rid of that particular fact of of this system. It's almost gonna be there. I can try to actually like dig this quite deep, and then probably do something where like there's like a slightly larger collection of mud right down below here, because stuff would have been sort of flowing along this road. I'm gonna have to end the ditch here at some point when this shortcut, or whatever you want to call it, starts, but that's fine. Yeah, I might actually have to end this video at some point, and even though I could kind of go on for hours still, just keep doing this, explaining what I do, and just do it. But I have some other life business to take care of, so I will have to end it at some point, but let's keep going for a while still. Okay. Yeah. How are we doing on this side? Yes, these are essentially cliffs that just have like texture, grass texture on them. They tend to be very bumpy, because it's essentially like a cliff face that just happens to have a grass texture. So it can sometimes be a bit tricky to just make them, even like the angle, not just the color, but the angle itself can be kind of tricky to match up with look at this grass, which is almost like a lawn. It's very flat in comparison, you know, like this. And in some cases, it can be saved by putting a rock there or something. Let's make it aligned with random. So now it tries to align the objects with the terrain. You know, we can do stuff like that. That's not necessarily like the optimal alignment, but something like this can look quite okay, especially when you add a bit more stuff here, and it starts to look quite good. And sometimes the easiest way is just to like cover it with terrain, with dirt, essentially. Like in cases like this, maybe you can like raise the terrain to that level instead, and sort of hope it covers it up nicely. And of course you want to be wary of the angle that you're intersecting the meshes with, the angle of the terrain that affects the lighting a lot. Yeah, this is actually not bad. Not great, but not terrible, as they say. Yeah, and don't take too much of the healthy grass away either. That's not gonna look good either. Okay, starting to look quite all right. Okay, and what should we then place here in the underneath this tower? I mean, we could be really corny and just make like a freaking spruce that it's like, well, it shouldn't be at that angle, but it could be growing through the funnel. Since like no one cares, but I'm thinking that it probably would take like 30 years or something for spruce to grow like that. And this transporter is supposed to have been like standing here for maybe 50 years, but not abandoned for more than, I don't know, 10 or 20 or something. I don't know. I don't exactly know. Maybe the 100 years is quite plausible in this case, but yeah, I think that's probably not a very good thing. But maybe we can have some like smaller trees here close by at least. This seems like a nice place for some trees, so let's put some trees. I'm gonna go with the same color, I think, here. We should probably put some like stumps here, so that maybe at some point there used to be. Well, the stumps would have gone away like since they built this initially. I don't know. Maybe don't overthink it. Mud is what I want, yes. Mud beneath spruces always tends to look good. And if there's like a really thick spruce forest in the real world, nothing really grows underneath those guys. They tend to sort of kill everything on the foliage that tries to grow under them. This is maybe a bit too much mud, I don't know. And obviously we'll want mud on the road as well. Just like this. But yeah. We can do it a little bit. I'll do like a proper pass at some point, but we could start putting some mud here now, and just to sort of anchor the road to the rest of the scene, so to speak. It looks very fake when there's just like a layer of gravel and nothing else. And then one in the middle, which is supposed to be more faint. And then you can again, like I mentioned in the previous video, try to add some like directionality into these. Careful not to add too many big clumps, they don't look good. I think, yeah, that already looks like someone have driven up there at some point. It doesn't take much. Okay. Right, so we have those two trees there. And we should probably put some here as well. So maybe put like a larger one down here. Maybe that's something that they would have sort of left there from the very beginning. They wouldn't have had to actually remove it even when this system was in use. I now realize that these are probably on the wrong layer. Yeah. For this level, I, for one reason or another, decided to put rocks and trees on different layers. Like this area is, or this level is mostly rocks and trees. So I was like, okay, let's put these on different layers. I don't think I'm gonna do that in the future. I'll just have like one area per sort of one layer per area. Now I have like 3 or 4 or 5 layers per area. I don't necessarily think that's needed. But since I started doing it for this level, I'm gonna continue. It's probably best to just keep doing what I started doing at this point. That angle is perhaps a little too steep, so something like that. And try to keep trees and stuff like this sort of off the main paths like this. Works both from like a gameplay perspective, but also from like a perspective of how things grow and where they grow. They don't tend to grow like right in the middle of things, but kind of off to the side where there's more protection from the wind and rain and everything. Maybe trees don't need protection from the rain, but you get my point. Okay, so let's go to the cliff layer. So what do we have? You can see in the log down there that those are approach props and approach cliffs. Okay then. Put a smaller rock here. Kind of works. Paint some mud near that as well, and we should put something here. What should it be? I may not have all the props needed to like make this sort of final, even final for the demo. I will need more foliage, and I just have like the ferns. And, well, I have some other foliage, but it's really old and bad. There's some vines as well here, but I don't really like them. And I made some birches, but they ended up looking really bad. It's like, what is that? No, bad birch. Don't look like that. Right, how much is that? It's actually not at all in the way. It's not at all in the way. But it is sort of looking like they probably wouldn't have left it there. Something like that, maybe. I don't know. A little off to the side, and let's bury it a little bit. And I think this will look quite okay when we get some other smaller pebbles and whatnot to seal the deal. So soon we can start to think about where that pylon should be, and whether there should be some other like control boxes or something near this to sort of sell us on the idea that they would have like serviced it or something. Some like rocks there, yeah, that looks alright. Let's put some more rocks here. That looks alright too. Maybe a little too large. Something like that. Maybe add. I was talking earlier about these paths that tend to form when people move around, and I think we should have a path up to this. It can be kind of faint, and unmaintained, so to speak. But I still think there should be one, and there should probably be like a bit of mud and gravel even underneath this guy. And this looks way too light now. These colors don't look good, but we'll fix it. And especially when we start to remove some of the healthy grass, and you have the dead grass coming through from the lower layers, then I think it's going to work quite well. Again, some directionality here as well doesn't hurt anyone. Not too much of the mud, like there's supposed to be just like a hint of it. And let's subtract some of the healthy grass from this area. And then we can like now it doesn't look like anyone has walked there because it's not pressed down at all. So let's flatten it first, and then we do press it down a little bit. Got kind of uneven here, but yeah, that didn't work out at all actually. Let's see, where's the smoothing? There's the smoothing, and we'll use the trick that I used earlier for this. So take away the fall off and then paint. Yeah, I think this is what I actually wanted. So now we're keeping the shape but just moving it down a little bit. And then just a hint of smoothing around the edges. Better. It's not really selling me on the idea of this being a path yet, but we'll see. We have this other dry grass which we can start paint in a little as well. Make it not so very green. That's weird. Why is it? Oh, that's why. I was thinking that it's weird and I don't get anything. But we had that option on, so that's why. Yeah, bring in some of the dry grass here. Which would only make sense if this was an area where they used to service this thing, and it's been a while since they did that, so the grass might have started to reappear a bit, but still. Yeah, all right. Maybe we can. Yeah. Never mind. Let's put some rocks here, close to these. That's maybe a little big again. And if you want to, you can always rotate these so that you don't get like all the rocks even visible. Some of them can be just underground, and that's completely fine. These are decoration objects, so it really doesn't matter if you just sprinkle the level with them. One of those can be like underneath the leg, although now it just looks weird because there's like rocks right near to both of those. Let's take it away and let's paint some mud there. Just like small improvements, very small. And it sort of sells you on the whole illusion of this being an actual place. Let's not lower it all that much there, and actually not there either, because the terrain is coming through. Still looks pretty good. We have some problematic places here, but let's move that down a little bit. Yeah, I saw some issues here, so let's see what we have. Again. Something like that. One more. There we go. Okay. Okay, what does this look like? Does this look like a place? Yeah, I think this is starting to look like a place. I think this is now going to be sort of the edge of things that are really sort of green, if you will, here. Now let's just test out moving this somewhere here. I don't know exactly where. This pit here is sort of bugging me, so let's cover it up. Let's do a cop out and just put some rocks here, some decorations, something like that. Yeah, why not? Yeah, so I think we'll go pretty hard on the brown and the more sort of dry landscape here. We'll see how that looks, and if it looks good, and if it makes sense. Might not make sense that you have like a dry hill and then beneath it you have a more green and lush area, but we don't need to take it that far. This is only a game after all, so let's just have some fun. This should sort of aim at that, but it should be, if we're thinking about where the next pylon is, or pole, what is it called? Power pole, something like that. It should be almost like an average of those angles. If you're looking at this sits like right between those two angles. That's something that we want to have here as well. Which side should it come from? Should it be from that side? I think it should probably be from this side, yeah. let's move it a bit closer to the... Again, this is one thing that, like, I don't know exactly how high the vehicles will end up being in this game, and I don't think I'll ever do any sort of collision with those, so let's try to not have the cables hang like very, very close and low over the road. And instead have them high enough that there won't be any problem, even if we have a bit higher vehicles. Okay. Right. Do we want to do anything more in this video, or do we want to call it quits for now and return in a later one? I think this is going pretty well. However, it is very, very slow when I narrate everything that I'm doing. I'm just not very experienced with working this way. Do let me know what you think about this way of working. Is this actually enjoyable at all, or would you just like me to explain some other things in more detail, something that I have perhaps a better understanding of, because this kind of working is very sort of exploratory. I have to like try out things and then decide that they're bad, and then try out other things, etc., etc. So this kind of stuff is often a lot faster and more efficient to just do offline. But on the other hand, this is pretty fun to do, so I don't mind doing it. But I'll probably continue working on this area off screen, and I might get back to doing videos like this, but look at like another area of the level, and I think that would be probably more interesting for you guys as well. But yeah, we've come actually quite a long way in these few videos. We've made this area with completely new 3D meshes and everything, and I think this is actually coming together quite nicely. So let's end this video here, and if you made it this far, then thanks a lot, and you know what to do, all the normal things: subscribe, leave a like, leave comments, etc. And I will see you in later chapters. Bye.